human side of the impact of what happened. At the heart of the U-turn was, of course, the algorithm used by the exam regulator Ofqual. To discuss it, we can talk now to Dr. Tom Fincham, lecturer in computer science at the University of Bath. Thank you for joining us. Let's take a little look, actually, at the offending algorithm. I'm not sure if this is the whole thing or a part of it, but it's to any untrained eye or brain with these things, it's very, very complicated. I think we can take a look. There, I know that, I mean, x, y equals 100 times, and then it's just this pretty impenetrable calculation. How is that arrived at, Tom?
I can't actually see what you're showing, but I'm going to guess it's the core equation of the system. And at some level, they made a set of decisions, they inserted their own assumptions and ideals for how the system should work into it, and they came up with this equation.
Can you get then a perfect outcome on what your assumptions are? In other words, I mean, there's been obviously a lot of talk about the wrong assumptions that was the start point, and that's what led to this. Could it have been foreseen that with the assumptions that went into creating the algorithm, we'd have ended up with this result?
Yes. It's quite clear, looking at what they did, that the forcing the students' distribution to match the school's distribution was a requirement. That's something they chose to do. They didn't actually do that because they made technical mistakes, but it was clearly their intention to do that, and that was always going to create this problem where any student who's, excelled is going to then be pulled back, and that hardly comes across as fair.
So when you say they made technical mistakes as well, what went wrong then also? What went wrong within that algorithm?
So it gets quite involved. Probably the most important mistake is that they essentially allowed the algorithm to cheat. So when you design an algorithm, you test it. And they tested it last year. And when they tested it, they also essentially gave it last year's results and asked it to recover last year's results. This is sort of a classic, you do not do that type mistake. And the end result is they chose, out of 11 different approaches they considered, the approach that was best placed to make use of that cheating scenario and get a good result. So I actually think that was a straight-up accident, but they chose the wrong algorithm out of the algorithms they were considering.
So what happened was that 97% of the GCSE results would have been decided by the algorithm if it hadn't have been ditched before Thursday. It was a lower number for the A-levels, but nonetheless that was 97% for GCSEs, which meant, as you've been explaining there, teacher rankings not being taken into consideration. Rankings being taken into consideration, but not the teacher-assessed grades submitted by schools and colleges. And that's how we've ended up with a situation where kids that were predicted Bs might have ended up with Es, even Us. It was all to do with what had happened before in those institutions.
Yeah. Some of that was a mistake as well. The people dropping 2 free grades, that was a straight-up maths error.
When would it have been clear that this was the case? Because obviously it's been unfolding over a matter of weeks, because the situation, albeit with a slightly different algorithm, but in Scotland it was clear that there were issues sooner.
So, I mean, from my point of view, I sat down, I read the report, and I immediately spotted these problems. If they had had any kind of external review, they had put more eyes on the problem, they'd asked for help, these issues would have been raised and they could have been fixed. Sometimes asking for help is the right move.
That's the sort of basic thing that you want to teach your kids, isn't it? If you don't understand something, ask for help. What do you mean, though, in this context? Who should have asked for help?
Well, my understanding is that the Royal Statistical Society offered and was in effect turned down by lawyers playing around with NDAs. They should have accepted that help because they would have fixed this. And even if they were not involved, there are hundreds of people around the country who are perfectly capable of spotting the problems in the system.
Dr. Tom Fincham, lecturer in computer science at the University of Bath, thank you very much.
Thank you.